Welcome to this episode of the GymInformer podcast. I'm Chris Gilbert, your host for this episode, with my co-host and co-founder of Classic Iron Fitness, Jason Goldman. Our guest this episode is Brandon Garner, the owner of RVA Iron. So if you have never been to that gym, it's an amazing gym. And before we get started, we're going to pause and I'll show you some photos I took while I was at those two gyms.
Hey, Brandon, Jason here. So tell us a little bit about the evolution of the gym. I mean, how did you go from being a Marine, now obviously I'm assuming an ex-Marine, to owning one of the premier gyms on the East Coast?
Really, so I got out of the Marine Corps in 2017, and I got heavily involved in bodybuilding in the Marine Corps. I didn't really do much except work out and buy supplements every weekend, and that was kind of my getaway. A lot of other Marines were going out, drinking, partying with women and stuff like that. But me and my buddy Paul, we primarily focused on training in the gym. So when I got out in the Marine Corps, I moved to Richmond, Virginia, and I attended school at VCU for exercise science. And, quickly I realized the age gap between, getting out of the military. I think I was 24 at the time, going to classes with all of these college students, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. The maturity gap there was pretty severe. And I didn't really enjoy classes. I had already achieved my associate's degree. So I kind of really needed to figure out what I wanted to do going forward. Now, this, like I said, was in 2017. So initially what I did was I started a supplement company called Phantom Nutrition. And I started that in 2017. And I did that for about 4 years or so, right up until about 2020 when the pandemic hit. Now, up until this time, I've been training in corporate gyms in the area. If you've never been to Richmond, we probably have, there's a ton of corporate gyms: Gold's Gyms, Crunch Fitnesses, Planet Fitness, American Family Fitness, you name it, right? And all of these gyms really just catered to, people that needed to exercise. They wanted to be fit and healthy, but there really wasn't a gym that catered specifically to the bodybuilder, right? Which was my forte, So basically when the pandemic hit and all the gyms closed, I was kind of left just feeling like really empty. There was a big part of me in the gym that was now gone because we couldn't train. And, I kind of just one day decided that I was going to open my own gym. And when the pandemic hit, the sales with Phantom Nutrition, my supplement company, kind of started to stall a little bit, because if you can't work out, people aren't buying pre-workout and protein and stuff like that. And so I kind of had to make the decision. I had all this money that I built with Phantom Nutrition for the last 4 years, and I could either place a big order and kind of restock everything, or kind of pivot and do something else and kind of go into something else. So I started putting my feelers out on social media and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And some people came forward and said, hey, we had some people that really believed in it, other people that didn't. I found my business partner, Bobby George. He's up in Loudoun County, up in Northern Virginia. And, he approached me and said, hey, man, I would be down to do this with you. And we kind of talked about what it would look like. And we just kind of hit the ground running, man. We started collecting machines. It was like the worst time, but the best time to do this. And I feel like there was such a shift in people buying machines at this point. I mean, I found Flex Fitness on Facebook Market all day long. Flex Fitness, TK Star, some of the best, some of the golden nuggets, and for good prices. It was before this crazy, inflation with the machines. Like right now, you buy a Flex Fitness chest press, it's going to be $5,000 minimum, I think I paid $22.50, half that,
Right.
that was 2 years ago. But so all these gyms ended up closing during the pandemic. We were buying, so we've traveled up and down the East Coast. I probably went to New York like 6 or 7 times. We did bought a lot of machines in New York, in those northern states. I feel like they got hit the hardest with the shutdowns and stuff. So we just started accumulating, and May 2021, that's when we officially opened our doors to RVA Iron. So it was really just something that started off as during the pandemic. I had become really depressed. I was drinking a lot, and I kind of didn't know where I was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
When I decided to pivot and we started collecting these machines, it really kind of gave me that hope, everything was going to get better. And so when we started talking about it, really got traction. We knew we had something, right? And in the beginning, it was hard because, it was more so about me collecting machines and opening my own gym, right? It became so much bigger so fast because of all the people that just swarmed the idea and really pushed it forward. You know what I mean? And that was really what finalized that we needed to do this, because
Gotcha.
we were buying these machines, and you're spending, let's say, $50,000. You don't have a location. You don't really know if this is going to work. Worst come to worst, I can put those machines in a garage somewhere and have my own gym, right? I would say that was never the goal or the intention, but when people kind of rallied around the idea and pushed us forward, that's when we really knew that this was something that Richmond, Virginia needed, and I think that's how we got to where we are, at least got started.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having been to the OG gym a couple of times and Chester at least once, you have like a really cool mix of old school and new school. Like you mentioned, you have Flex, you have a few pieces of changeover equipment, you've got Panada. How do you decide like what is going to make it on the floor of the gym? Like, is it just by what you come across and you think is cool, or do you have like a process of like, this is what's going in my gym?
So I would say first and foremost, a big part of what separates us from a lot of the other gyms in the area is I have skin in the game, right? Because I've been a bodybuilder, because I've competed in bodybuilding competitions. I've trained this way since I was about 21, so almost 10 years. And because of that, over the years, finding and trying these machines, right? I kind of knew what I was looking for, and getting input from other people, other bodybuilders that, hey, I've used this gym and I've loved this Prime machine, or you need to check out Panada, because when you first start, you have no idea, right? You really don't. And then you start to get into it more and more, and it's like a flip that switches, right? And now you know exactly what to look for, the must-haves and the brands to stay away from. And I think it really comes down to like having used a lot of them previously, training in bodybuilding, but also having good people that are willing to say, hey, this is a brand I would look at, try to find one of these, look out for this, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously you do your own research and you go further and further into that. But ultimately what determines whether or not it goes on the floor is the strength curve good? How's the adjustability? Can it fit women? Can it fit men? How big is it? That the footprint is a massive part of it. But I would say ultimately it comes down to the user. Can the user hop on this thing, figure it out relatively quickly, and does it line up with their body's anatomy, and does it give them an effective workout? I can't stand the newer, cheaper machines that are being put out with plastics and stuff like that, or like the Chinese knockoffs that have been appearing. They come in boxes, and it's just you try that machine, you're like, something's not lining up right. Like I'm not able to feel my shoulder joint the way I should, or whatever it is, and there's gyms that pop up and their entire floor is filled with these machines, and I'm like, man, this gym is so cool. Why did you put these in here? It's like so frustrating because, and the unfortunate thing is people don't know the difference.
Right.
Yeah, we
They
talk
don't-
about it all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like really up to the owners or the management or whoever's in charge. The only reason that you know this is the best machine is because I bought it and put it in here and I told you that it was the best machine, right? And obviously, if it is, it is. If it's not, you don't know any different, right? Because this is the gym you go to. But then you come to a gym like RVA Iron and you try something that you've never tried before and you go, man, where has this been the whole time,
Mhm.
And then it actually lines up with the shoulder joint and it actually makes sense. So I would say that's a big part of the decision-making process,
you've done a good job. Like, I've been to over 150 gyms in the last 2 years, and you have pieces on your floor that I've never used at any other gym. So
I appreciate
that was
it.
pretty awesome. The other thing we wanted to talk about was, especially from like the first time I was there to the second time I was there, the atmosphere really like kind of came into its own. And from the first time I was there, it was a very clean. But by the time I went there the second time, you would really like amped up the atmosphere and the graphics on the wall and everything like that. It just really became like it's a unique place. And like, how did you decide like this is the atmosphere we want? And like, you have concrete floors, and was that an active decision? And what graphics you put on the wall? Like, how did you come about all those decisions or some of those decisions?
Yeah, so I'll say, we talked about the start of the gym leaning heavily into the equipment selection. And I have these conversations a lot. Like, I love this podcast and what you guys are doing because it brings awareness to gyms that prioritize equipment and also the environment. And if you ask me how important the environment is compared to the machines, realistically, I would say like 60-40 environment, machines, which may not be the answer that a lot of people think is going to happen. But the amount of times that somebody comes up to me, shakes my hand and says, this gym saved me from relapsing addiction. Like, it's incredible. I did an interview. One of our members is in college and she had to interview an entrepreneur in the gym space. And she's like, what's the most rewarding thing that you've encountered over the last 2.5 years? And I told her the amount of people that's come up to me, shake my hand and thank me for the gym has helped them get through X, Y, Z, and I think that the machines play a big part of that, but a larger part is the community. You guys talk about the community and building the culture at the gym. I know a lot of people that will come up to me and say, man, the machines at this gym were great, but the environment was off. It was people were stuck up. They were snobby. They looked at me a certain way, and it's very easy to tell, For us, when I first started, like you said, your first trip to your second trip, the first trip, we opened with about 60% of what we have now, maybe even less. Over the last 2 years, we've just kept pouring into it to make it better and better. And we took a lot of member consideration or member feedback into consideration when building it. And I would say between your two different visits, we really poured into the community much more by hosting, Friday nights at the bar, by being very active in the gym. I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym here for probably anywhere between 8 to 12 hours a day, realistically. And if it's not here, then I'm jumping down to Chester as well. I live pretty close to the OG, so I'm over here most of the time. But I would say, between those two visits, we had Jesse from Grizzly Designs. He's a beast. I know he's done a bunch of gyms in the area, and great guy. He drove all the way over here from Indiana and did all of our murals. And a lot of our murals are, designs and logos of the RVA Iron main logo, and we just kind of rework it so that you're not seeing the same thing over and over and over. You get a T-shirt, and you put RVA Iron on it. How many times are you going to buy that T-shirt? I don't need 6 T-shirts that all have the same thing on it, right?
Mhm.
But if I have a T-shirt with the same word or the same idea in different ways, people buy it more, they'll continue to buy it and they'll continue to support it. So for us, it was like doing those designs, pouring into the artwork. You got to come back. We just put 86-inch TVs on our wall.
I saw that on Instagram
like 2 days ago, and it is so cool. People come in, they open the door, and first off, you walk in the gym, it doesn't really look like all that much when you pull up. You're kind of like, is this it? Like, and then you come in the lobby, and it's like, okay, where's the gym, right? And then you walk, and I love that it's separate, and it is slightly different than Chester, because Chester, the desk is in the front. With this one is, the lobby is separate from the main floor, so it's almost like a club, right? When you go to a club and they're doing the ID check, and you just hear the music in the back, and it's like thumping, and you're just like, I got to get in there. I want to get in there. That's how it is for us in here. Like, you walk in the lobby, maybe getting a day pass, or it's your first time, and you just hear that music behind the door, and you're like, what's back there? And they open the door, and it's like, whoa, you see their eyes light up, and it's really a great feeling. But now with the TVs, we've been doing content for almost 3 years now. We've had professional content. My business partner, Bobby, he's a professional wedding photographer. And it was like a strategic play when I brought him in as a partner, because I knew that he could handle, he's a fanatic when it comes to media, how things look. And I know in today's business world how important social media is in marketing. It's the lifeblood of business. So we've been creating content, and it's of our members for the last almost 3 years, 2.5 years. And
That's
so
awesome.
I said, I don't like how Instagram is just like next, right? YouTube is, as the informational platform that it is, you can go back and you can find something and say, oh, I want to watch that video, right? Instagram Reels aren't really like that, right? I'm not going back and finding a video. You just get lost. So I'm like, we're spending money and we're doing all this over the last couple of years. I want to highlight that. How do we keep showing the members? So we put the TVs up, we put them portrait, and we just run those same reels that we've been recording for the last 3 years. It's like 10 gigs of, I want to say we can fit like 50 videos in there. We've got like 20 in there right now because we just did it. We're still putting them in.
That's cool.
But then you walk in and you're like, that's my friend, or that's the guy, that's me, and it's crazy. I mean, people, since the last 2 days, people come in, they put on their social media, and it makes them feel great, and so things like that, it costs us money. It costs us money buying the TVs, getting the electrical ran, and a lot of other gyms might consider it as like unnecessary, but for us, when people come in and this gym makes them feel a certain way, they want to be in here, they want to be around these other people. That's why we pour so heavily into the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, you really get it in the fact that, like, I know Nate Tello, I think. We were talking to him just recently, and he was actually mentioning you when we were talking to him about how you guys both kind of get the atmosphere and the fact that you need to embrace the Instagram and the social media presence in order to build this community, because that's what helps build your community. And you guys have done a great job, both of you. And like, you got the neon back in the glute area, which I thought was super cool. And even having just a separate glute area organized like that. And you were mentioning, like, yeah, it is really cool when you walk into the OG gym, and it's like, you walk in, you're like, oh, is this it? And then you open that door, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna mess with stuff in this place.
Right. That's the best feeling.
You open that door, you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be badass.
Yeah.
Now, Chester, I know you just walk right into the gym, but it's this long, expansive amount of equipment. You're like, okay, like
with Chester, and Chester being, so I'll tell you this. I really didn't have a lot of intention with opening another gym as quickly as we did. but a friend of mine sent me a message on Facebook about her dad's furniture store closing. He had been in business for over 30 years, and well known in the community down in Chester. I think I had 10 people when we first opened tell me they had bought their furniture from there, when they were, 10 years ago, whatever. And so that I could feel immediately a strong sense of community down there. Pair that with being right beside the Fort Lee military base. It's like within 10 minutes of us. And really only having the corporate gyms in there similar, but it's definitely a different, the gym is a different vibe and it's a different community. And so those things I like took into factor before we built that one. And even though I couldn't do the separate lobby and gym, I wanted to, and it was really Bobby's idea with those lights that we used. We wanted to make the gym feel really big because they're smaller ceilings. It's not drop ceiling, but it's not 20-foot ceilings like we have at the OG. I think these ones are like 14. So it does feel a little bit shorter. And we wanted to put those cool lights in and make it feel like as long as possible. And I told Bobby, I said, how do we make this thing something that people want to come back to? And when they come in, they're like, I've never been to a place like this in my life, right? Like, not just a gym, not just like, this is a gym I've never been to, but like, how do you walk in and make somebody say, I've never been to any place like this, period, right? That was like a big part of why we chose those lights. Why we do the neon. The neon, it's another one of those things that you mentioned, the cake factory that we have in the glute area. First off, it's a big marketing thing, right? Like a lot of gyms have glute sections, right? Or they have leg rooms or leg sections, right? When you brand that and you can, tell people this is what it is, it helps you, portray the message. And it's also really cool. Cake factory, people almost immediately get it, or you kind of explain it to them and then they start to understand, But I think neon in the gyms has definitely grown over the last few years. And I think it really started in bars. And one of the reasons why we chose it, and it comes back to like the community and the marketing. If you watch when people go to bars or restaurants in destination cities, I was in Fort Lauderdale this past summer and I was at a really nice restaurant. And it's so funny because I went to the bathroom. So I get up, go to the bathroom, and I walk by this wall. It's like covered in like greenery, like shrubs, and it's got a big neon sign right in the middle. And it was like, wish you were here, or like some witty slogan that has nothing to do with the gym name or the gym's mission, right? It's just a witty slogan that makes you want to take a picture there, right? And like that is essentially what we did. I said, women go to bars and you always see they want to take pictures with this neon, and it's just a witty slogan. And the thing is you don't need to put your logo on everything, right? People are going to know where that's from. You know what I'm saying? So really doing the neon with the cake factory, one was about the marketing, but also was about making people want to be like, let's take a picture in front of that. It's so cool, and stuff like that, which obviously helps us with the marketing and everything else. So
you get your members to market for you.
Exactly. And people either get that or they don't, and I think the ones that understand that have successful gyms, and or businesses in general, but yeah, Chester is definitely a different vibe. And when I did Chester, I wanted to make it completely different, but within our same brand, right? I wanted to use different machines, so that way you had one membership and two different gyms, like wholly two different gyms, right? Like the atmosphere feels different, the people down there are different, the machines are different. And when we have corporate gyms that say, hey, you can sign up and you can get access to 10 of our gyms, it's strictly convenience based. It's not It's the same gym over and over and over and over, right? And it's like, that's great. If I'm traveling an hour from work and I need to use this other gym, I know exactly what they have. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But for us, I was like, I want to just another gym, like a completely different gym,
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
I could change the name today. I could change Chester from RVA Iron Chester, name it something else, and it would work. You know what I mean? Like it would be a completely separate gym. Obviously, I won't do that. Wouldn't do that. But that was the idea when we did that one.
Are you done, or is there a third gym in the future?
I'll say this. So a year after we opened this gym, the OG, when I say this one, I talk about the OG because that's where I'm at. We had the opportunity to buy the property, and you know, it was so crazy because we got turned down by so many property managers and owners before we found this one, and it worked out. Like it was so stressful because I had well over $100,000 worth of equipment in storage units. We were paying for months and months. We kept getting told no, like 6 times. I think like 6 or 7 times. And I'm like, every time, like, this is the one. This is perfect. You know, this is the one we need. And I'm so grateful that I just trusted that everything was going to work out the way it needed to, because we came here and we got a great price for rent. I met my old landlord. His name is Danny. He's great, kind of a mentor for me now. And I expressed early on, you know, my intention, or I wanted to buy the property if I could, you know. And within a year, like, he made the opportunity available to us. And just that alone is so difficult, right? Like, most people don't even get the opportunity to buy something, let alone, like, money aside, like, they're not even going to put it up for sale, you know, for us. So, like, that was huge for us. I was 29, you know, I'm in my 20s buying this commercial property. So that kind of really shifted my mindset going forward. What properties are we looking at for the gyms? Because I'm 30 years old now, you know, and I don't know, do I want to be 60 years old running gyms? You know, like, I can maintain ownership, but I needed an end game, right? Like, I needed an end game or where it would transition to. So us buying this property really changed my perspective on the things that we looked at. So when Chester became available, a big thing on my mind was, can we purchase the property, right? And immediately the landlord, we talked to him, and he's like, it's definitely not off the table, right? So immediately said, okay, this could work. So when we look at the option of a third gym, there's a lot of things in play. I want to be roughly 30 to 45 minutes away, because I don't want to take away from our members, you know? So in short, to answer your question, I definitely want to do a third one in the Richmond area. I don't really have any plans of going anywhere else. And I would say I really look up to gyms like the finish of, like, Pure Muscle and Fitness, Tyler's gym down at Elite. And I love the finish of, like, the Carbon gym. It's really polished. It's really clean. It has I hate to use the word corporate feel, right? I don't like corporate gyms. It's not necessarily the gym, but it's the people. They don't care. You know, it's a business. They want to make money, and I understand that. But these gyms are a little more polished off. They've had more money going into them. When we first started, Bobby and I, you know, we started the gym with roughly $180,000, the first one. You know, like, that's not a lot, you know, for this space that we have. So going into possibly a third gym, we want to be able to buy the property, and we need the capital to be able to be like, okay, this is it. You know, like, Richmond is a small, big city, right? And Richmond is like the center, and then you have all these surrounding communities around it. And we're kind of on the eastern side of it now, what the OG is. Chester is about 40 minutes down south. near Fort Lee, Colonial Heights area, Petersburg area. And the only other way we could really go would be out towards the west. And that would kind of give us like a triangle. So that's definitely like a plan or a goal that we have. I'm just, with the way that we built Chester and the speed of which we've moved with these things, I need the timing to be right, and I don't want to rush the building that I get into, you know?
Yeah, just take your time and do
Yeah,
it right.
you know, and that's a big question a lot of people have asked me, and we've hinted at it a lot. I talk about a lot of that stuff because it just keeps the gears turning.
Mhm.
What's next? What's next? What are they doing? It just keeps people talking about us. It keeps people thinking about the gym locally, you know. And I'll tell you this, opening RVA Iron Gym, every single corporate gym that can in our area has built posing rooms. They've put in bodybuilding focused machines. You're talking Atlantis, you're talking Prime, you're talking TK Star. I trained at all these gyms before I opened mine, and there wasn't a single TK Star, right? So
Yeah.
they talk about other businesses elevating, you know, the consumer experience. A lot of that started to happen once we opened ours. So I think that it's been great for the bodybuilding community in Richmond, seeing all these gyms kind of step up to the plate. They had to, you know, or else it wasn't going to work out. So
Yeah, we're familiar with the owners of the Golds, half of the Golds. Like, I know half the Golds down there are like big corporate owned, and the other half are owned by the same guys who own a bunch of the ones in Maryland.
yeah,
And I know they were just talking about they're not done renovating like the ones down there because they got to keep up.
yeah. I mean, and if you look at the last 2 years, and really there has been a big shift change. And I think what happened was, you think about 5-10 years ago, look, really, let's say before the pandemic, it was a race to the bottom. How can I offer you the cheapest rate, right? That's when Planet Fitness emerged. Almost all the corporate gyms jumped down to like $20 a membership. It's kind of like the C4 pre-workout, right? C4 pre-workout came out, and everyone thought that pre-workouts needed to be $30 a tub. And this was the industry standard. And so all the gyms kind of followed suit. It's a race to the bottom. Who can offer as much as possible for the lowest cost and sign up as many people as possible? And it strictly became about convenience, and it stopped being about quality, right? Well, COVID happened. I don't know what changed. Maybe people realized that, you know, they needed to focus more. The password's under the keyboard. I don't know if people realized that there was definitely a shift, a change in what people are looking for in gyms. And I think that's where the quality emerged, really. And it's been really head first ever since. And now, in order to be relevant, gyms need to focus on the community, focus on their environment, focus on their machines. You know, we've seen a lot of bodybuilding posters get put back up years after they were torn down because it was too much or what have you, you know? So I think there was a shift in that, and now gyms are focused on those types of things. And it's only better for the consumer, really. And at the end of the day, like, those gyms are always going to be around because you're always going to have those people that just, they want to be in shape and they want to be healthy and fit. But you can buy machines all day long. This is the thing. You can buy machines all day long. Everybody has equal access to machines. What you can't change is your community. You can't change your environment. You can't change what you've built. You know, if you've been building this for the last 10 years, buying a bunch of machines isn't going to change the gym, right? You have to implement these things and have ownership and management that cares about the end goal for the consumer, the client. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter. Like, a gym is just a warehouse full of machines. At the end of the day, that's all it is, right? And you can have Panada and you can have this, that, and the other. But if you've got the wrong people running it, or you've got the membership, or members that don't care, you're going to go in and be like, man, I love this gym. It's great. But there's shit all over the floor. There's weights everywhere. Why is this guy being rude and disrespectful? Where's the ownership? Who can I talk to about this guy who's just being rude to everybody? And then you get frustrated and you leave, right? And you go to some other gym. Maybe they have less quality machines. Maybe they have just hammer strength, right? Like, nothing wrong with hammer strength. I love some hammer strength, but you know what I'm saying? They don't have the diversity of the Panadas and the Atlantises and stuff like that. But you're willing to go there because you're not bothered by that rude guy, or you're not bothered. They clean up after themselves, So that's when I think about the 60-40 and the community outweighs the machines, really.
Yeah, we always say, like, equipment might get you in the gym, but atmosphere keeps you there.
Absolutely. I mean, we're 100% a testament to that because, like you said, your first visit, the gym was like a shell, right? Like, the walls were just black, the concrete. We have some good machines. Can you close that door, bro? We have some good machines, but we really hadn't found, who we wanted to be yet in RVA. Richmond is heavily built around culture. Like, there's a lot of art here, art students here, really good restaurants. People that live in Richmond are really proud to be in Richmond, right? And like, before we opened, RVA has always been Richmond, Virginia, right? And when I moved here in 2017, you see on every car, RVA. They're proud to be from Richmond, right? And so when we sit there and we look at, like, what should we name our gym? I took the RVA logo from it's like a sticker, and it's like standard across all these cars. I'm like, this is what we're gonna use, right? We're gonna use this one, and we're gonna put iron underneath of it. But it was a little too corporate-y or like polished, you know what I mean? So we ended up doing the brushed RVA, so it's a little more rugged, if you will. But since the beginning, Richmond has always been a city that was grounded and like built around that culture and community. So within 6 months of opening the gym, I was like, the machines are great, but we've got to pound on the environment. When you open that door, how do you feel? When you leave the gym, how do you feel? Right? It's got to go up. It's got to go up. It cannot go down.
Yep. 100%.
Your mood cannot go down when you leave the gym. Like, and there are definitely, I'm sure you guys have been to gyms, and I mean, I've been to gyms in the area where I'd walk in, ready to have a great workout, and I turn the corner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even want to be here, right? And then
I've left in the middle of my workout.
Yeah, you leave, you're like, I can't do it, and you leave, right? And for us, it's like, I'm like, that can never happen here, right? And that's why I'm so involved. That's why our staff is so involved. In member relations, if you want to call it that. I'm on a first name basis with so many people, and it's been a blessing. It truly has. But I think, like you said, the machines get the people in there. It sparks your interest, especially if you're a bodybuilder and you know what you're looking at. But what keeps you going back and consistent is the community and the atmosphere, like you said.
Yeah. So I've got one last question for you, Brandon, before we wrap this up. So somebody inspiring to open up their own gym, one piece of advice would you give them to help ensure their success?
I would say it needs to be rooted in why you're doing it, right? It needs to be rooted in why do you want to bring this to your area, right? Because so many people come to me and say, I've always wanted to open my own gym. I'm like, well, why don't you? Like, you can do it, right? The biggest piece of advice I would give for them is, sometimes the vision gets blurred or the waters get a little muddy, but as long as you know the end goal and you keep working towards it, it's going to come to life, right? And as long as you're involved, it's not like I started and I knew immediately, this is what I got to do, right? I just was receptive to member feedback. I've studied our competition. I looked at other gyms and I said, what are these gyms doing that is working for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the machine? Is it the culture? Is it the environment, right? Like what is it that this gym has that makes people want to go there, right?
Sure.
And you can look at that, you know, and figure that out and make that work for where you are, right? And I think that if I had to give advice, it would just to be deep rooted in why you're doing this. For us, it really came down to the community and the amount of people that, like I said, it really started off as something for me, you know, to get me out of that depression, to get me past where I was in life. But because of the amount of people that surrounded this idea and really pushed for us to do it, then it was like, this is why we're doing this, you know. Opening the week before we opened, it was a struggle when I first started. It was just me. We were out of money. We didn't have anybody helping us really. I didn't have enough money to hire somebody to come build my machines for me. And I had this TK Star jungle. You know, it came out of, I want to say it came out of Big Six Fitness up in New York that closed down. I'm not sure 100% if that was the name, but it was Tom Kinney's gym that he went to. He built this jungle gym for the gym that he trained at. We got the flying dip from the same gym. We got like 4 or 5 TK pieces that came out of this gym that closed, all from different people. It was awesome. So then I'm like, these are all from the same gym. You could tell that because the chain and everything was made for that gym. And 2 days, or it was like a week before we opened, I had everything set up, but I couldn't put up the jungle by myself. You know, I painted at the OG. This is a fun fact. I painted all the walls, 7,500 square feet, 20-foot ceilings. I painted all the walls by myself.
Wow.
And it took me like 2 weeks. And you talk about feeling, it was hard. It was hard because I would come into this gym every day and I would see this massive possibility, right? And it was like these massive walls, huge space. And I was like, okay. And there were some days when it was easy and I would go in and I'd grab the paint and I would just roll the paint, right? And I'd start rolling the paint and it would go up quickly and fast and it would be smooth. There was other days where it's like every fucking stroke was like, can you do this? Can you do this? Is this going to work? Is this going to work? You know? And it took me like 2 weeks to do the whole thing, right? And I leaned so heavily on the people that rallied around the idea. And I think it's the answer to that. You know, when we started doing this, we had the TK jungle. I put it out there. I was like, if anybody can come help me, I would appreciate it. You know, I had like 12 people come that day and help me set up the jungle. I looked around and I was like, this is going to work, you know, because of the people that came, you know, and they set up the jungle. They had no gain for themselves. You know, I knew them. We were friends, you know, but at the end of the day, some of them are here. Some of them aren't here. So the last piece of advice I would say is just be deep rooted in your why, you know, and whatever that why is, it can't be really about money. It can't really be about, you know, I got to build the best gym ever. Like it becomes the Mecca because people tell you this is the best gym I've ever been to in my life. And this is the bodybuilding Mecca, the best gym I've ever been to. Like that's when that emerges, right? And it comes from the way you make the people feel in the gym. So be deep rooted in your why. Know that if somebody says why you open the gym, I could tell you immediately, and I could just pour it. You know, I just did. I can pour it out to you.
Yeah.
You know? And if you don't know that, you got to know that. You know, so
that's great advice. We have the community appreciates that.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Brandon. We appreciate it.
It's been a blessing, guys. I really appreciate you all having me on, and you know, I love telling this story, and I love talking about it. You know, and the business side of things is one thing. The passion in the gyms, it's evident, right, in the ownership. Like if they're passionate about what they're doing, it's gonna work out, you know. And so I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I love what y'all are doing. Just keep doing it. Maybe one day we'll have a third one for y'all to come out and look at.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Thank you.
We would enjoy that.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.